Hi there, my name is Asher Platts, chair of the Maine Green Independent Party. Today's weekly address comes courtesy of Adam Marletta, former Portland Green Independent Committee chair. While the overblown hysteria of the fiscal cliff is behind us, at least for now, the assault on the poor, the needy, and the disenfranchised continues. Now that House Republicans have given President Obama his modest tax increases for the wealthy, Washington insiders speculate that he will soon be expected to return the favor with deep cuts to essential programs like Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And contrary to the Democratic Party's insistence that the president will do the right thing, Obama has stated on numerous occasions that he is prepared to enact a grand bargain with the GOP in regard to these cherished social programs. Here in Maine, Governor Paul LePage has been given the go-ahead by the Department of Health and Human Services to enact at least some of his proposed cuts to the state's Medicare program, MainCare. Because of these cuts, more than 20,000 low-income Mainers, including senior citizens and those with disabilities, are now in danger of losing their MainCare benefits by March 1st. Now, LePage, who routinely references his own struggle with childhood poverty, insists that Maine is too generous. This is the same compassionate governor, readers may recall, who blasted welfare recipients during last year's Republican convention, urging them to get off the couch and get yourself a job. Now, it may surprise you to hear me say that the Republicans are correct that we're living in a welfare state, but they're confused about the actual recipients of the bulk of these government handouts. It's not the poor and middle class who enjoy the bulk of these benefits. These benefits go primarily to corporations and the rich. Corporations and the wealthy are the real welfare queens. Through a seemingly endless array of complex loopholes, tax breaks, government subsidies, bailouts, benefits, and fraudulent practices, corporations are the real moochers on society. But how does corporate welfare compare to social welfare, you might ask? Consider the following statistics. According to the libertarian Cato Institute, the United States government spent $93 billion on corporate subsidies in 2002 alone. That number was $205 billion in 2012. Now compare that with the roughly $59 billion spent on traditional welfare programs annually. Additionally, 30 multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 corporations, including General Electric and Boeing, did not pay any income taxes at all in the last 3 years, according to a 2011 report by Citizens for Tax Justice. Collectively, these corporations raked in $160 billion in profits that year, and they kept every dime. Yet Mitt Romney and the corporate-owned media would rather that we focus our outrage on the 47% of alleged citizen tax evaders. The only presidential candidate that I recall ever mentioning the issue of corporate welfare was Green Party presidential candidate Dr. Jill Stein. As Ralph Nader noted in a 1996 article for Earth Island Journal, by any yardstick, there is far more crime, far more violence, and far more welfare disbursement in the corporate world than in the impoverished street arena. The federal government's corporate welfare programs number over 120. They are so varied and embedded that we actually grow up thinking that the government interferes with the free enterprise system rather than subsidizing it. I think it's high time that U.S. corporations start taking responsibility for their own lives. You know, pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Unfortunately, Americans are far more likely to buy into the whole blame the poor narrative. A recent example of which being how those in the corporate media erroneously blamed the Hostess Bakers strike for the company's shutdown last winter, when in fact it was the irresponsible actions of the owners who decided that it was easier to dismantle a company rather than pay their workers a livable wage. This idea that working people are parasites and those earning the most in the tops of our corporations are the ones who are producing could not be further from reality. Recently, AIG announced that to thank the US government for their bailout, they would be sending them a thank you card in the form of a lawsuit. AIG claims that, in the bailout package that they willingly agreed to, the Federal Reserve violated their Fifth Amendment property rights, and more importantly, may have interfered with shareholders' earnings. As veteran financial reporter William Greider aptly puts in The Nation, AIG's brazen, utterly ungrateful behavior sets a world record for breathtaking arrogance. One could say that by filing this lawsuit, AIG is looking to have its cake and eat yours too. But according to the blame the poor narrative created by corporate apologists, it's actually the hourly wage earners with the nerve to demand better working conditions who are the ones who are looking for a free ride. It's important to keep in mind that the banks are chiefly responsible for crashing the economy. Giant banks like Chase, Goldman Sachs, and Merrill Lynch sold toxic or junk assets that they knew were worthless and then insidiously bet against them on the market. This is no different than setting your own house on fire and then trying to cash in on your insurance policy. In the real world, that would be a criminal offense known as insurance fraud. The difference is, though, when you're dealing with hedge funds, when they do it, it's legal. Corporations, by both charter and case law, follow one objective: maximize profits. All too often, this also means socializing losses. Call it free market capitalism if you will, but this seems to me far more like socialism for the rich.